Guitar intervals, C major, A minor, and related modes, focusing this time on the D Dorian, pivoting around the focal point of the D note located on the second string down from the top of the guitar, part number 2. Remembering one of our objectives here is to get all of our resources orientated in the same direction, making them as easy on the eyes as possible from the perspective of a person playing the guitar. And when we are playing the guitar, we're located behind the guitar. And therefore, we're actually going to flip my guitar around so it looks like I'm left-handed here. I'm not left-handed. We just orientated it that way so it will be mirroring what you are doing. When we are behind the guitar, we've got the fretboard on our left. We've got the low or heavy string, the one closest to the ceiling up top on the guitar, going from left to right towards the body of the guitar here. We have orientated our worksheet similarly, this representing the low or heavy string up top, top to bottom, left to right, same orientation as though we took our guitar and basically just implanted those strings on the screen. So we're now taking a look and focusing in on our intervals, looking at the D Dorian scale, remembering that in prior presentations, we took the shape for the Ionian or major. We want to be focusing and learning multiple things, including really emphasizing this shape, which is going to be in this scale and related scales because they're all going to be the same notes in the related modes. And as we do that, we want to be learning the intervals for each of the different modes, which will also, after we go through all of the modes, give us basically all the intervals. So notice that this shape, we're kind of walking through what I would call, and many might call like shape number 1, or from a caged system, you might call it like a G shape. Usually people learn to kind of finger it from like a minor position. So this would be this shape if I was looking at a pentatonic, right? And if I add the two other notes to make it the major, to make it a full 7-note scale, that would be that. But it sounds like a minor because, of course, I'm playing it from what people normally see the starting point to the starting point. So if we started from the C and went to the C, then of course it would sound more like a major scale. That would be more like, of course, the C major scale. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through this shape and we're going to look at it from the perspective of each note in the shape, which will basically be every different mode within the shape. And then we'll look at the intervals from each of those. We started that with the C up top, and then we moved down to the D. So you'll note down here, this is the same colored fields as here, same colored fields, except that we have a different color scheme in that now we're focusing in on the D being the root. So we've moved it up to the top instead of it being the second of the major scale. We now see that the D is going to be moved up. It's the first of the Dorian. All the notes are the same. We're just looking at it from the perspective of this D. All of our intervals now having been adjusted to the perspective of the D Dorian, even though all the notes are the same. But just like in like physics, right? If I measure something from a different point, I might be measuring the same thing, but I'm measuring it from the from the other side of things, right? So that means all of the intervals are going to be in relation to this note now. So we want to kind of learn those intervals because we can basically, one way to see the scale is to build it with intervals. So we saw on the major scale, remember we had a perfect first, a 2-note away major second, a 4-note away major third, a 5-note away perfect fourth, 7-note away perfect fifth, 9-note away major sixth, 11-note away major 7. So in other words, we have the perfects on the 1, 4, and 5. Those are typically the same in the major and the main minor, which is the Aeolian. And then the things that differ are usually the ones that have a major, which would flip to a minor when we go into, say, the main minor mode, Aeolian, with the exception of the major second, which is the same in the Aeolian. It's different. Actually, the opposite of the major isn't really the Aeolian. It seems like it should be more like the Phrygian because it has all the, it's the one that flips all the majors to the minor. But that's the general idea. So when we go down to the Dorian here, This is a minor mode. So you would basically think if it was the main minor, Aeolian mode, that it would all of the perfects would remain the same and the majors would flip to minor except for this one, the second for some reason. and the Dorian's going to have one interval that is different than the main minor, than the related minor, than the Aeolian, the minor scale. And that's going to be the sixth. So it has a major sixth. So that's the funny thing about the Dorian that makes it not a minor scale. It is it makes it not the main minor mode of an Aeolian mode. It is a minor mode. How do we know it's a minor mode? It has the defining characteristics of the third being a minor third as opposed to a major third. That's the defining characteristic, making a chord major or minor and a mode major or minor. So last time we looked at the perfect first, the second, major second, and the minor third, and we're going to continue on here going forward to the perfect fourth, measuring them compared to this D. So just a quick run through again. Perfect first, that's the same as we saw in the major, of course, because it's the same note. And then we've got the two note away major second. That's the same thing on a major scale as well as the main minor, the Aeolian, as well as here on the Dorian. And then we've got the three note away minor third. So remember that this three over here represents that it's the third note in the scale. But when I say this three over here represents that it's 3 half steps to get there. So it's a 3 note away minor third as opposed to on the major side where you had a 4 note away major third. The 3 note away minor third for the Dorian would of course be the same as the 3 note away minor third for every other minor mode, the main one being the Aeolian minor scale. And then we've got the 5 note away perfect fourth. That's what we'll focus on first here. And that's the same as it is in the major because it's a perfect. It's the same as the main minor because it's a perfect. We've got the 7 note away perfect fifth. That's the same in the major because it's a perfect. That's the same in the main minor, Aeolian. And then we've got the 9 note away major sixth, noting that that's actually the same as the major scale, which is weird because this is a minor mode. And if it was the main minor, the Aeolian scale, the Aeolian mode, then it would be an 8 note away minor six. So this is the thing that's different between the Dorian, which is a minor mode, and the Aeolian. So if you wanted to take this pattern and kind of and change it to the D Dorian, then you could the D minor, then you can focus in on this interval, flattening it, right? And then you'd come up with a different shape. That would be, but we're going to focus on the Dorian here. And then, of course, we've got the 10 note away minor 7, which is different than what was the major, which was an 11 note away major 7. The 10 note away minor 7 being the same as what would be on the main minor, the Aeolian, because it's the minor scale. Okay, so we're on this D here, and we're going to be focusing in now on the perfect fourth. Now, notice again when I get to the perfect fourth, I sometimes mess up my talking because I get them mixed up because it's a 5 notes away perfect fourth and the next one is a 7 note away perfect fifth. So whenever I say 5 notes away, I want to say it's going to be a perfect fifth, but no, it's a 5 note away perfect fourth. What does that mean? It's a perfect fourth. That means that this 4 represents it's the fourth relative position in this Dorian scale. Right, it's the 4th note in the Dorian scale, and the fact that it's perfect can kind of tell you that it's basically the same for most scales, including the main majors and minors are typically has the same perfects, and the fact that it's 5 notes away is the actual distance in our baseline units of notes, half steps away, 5 half steps away. All right, so that's going to be what we're going to do. So I'm going to go back on over here. And where's my orange one? Oh, here it is. So then so let's go up 1 string and look for that 5 note away perfect fourth, which is a G. I can see it right there. Now, the perfect fourth, by the way, is not one that's an odd number. So it's not in our normal chord construction. So it's probably not one that we have just intuitively under our fingertips as readily as the notes that are in like a triad. The 1, 3, 5 is the triad. So because it's an odd one, it's going to be over here when I look at it from the perspective of building a chord. So it's an 11th. Why is it an 11th? Because we go 1, 3, 5, and then 7. There's only 7 notes. If I keep going up, I would go to 9, which is equivalent to the 2, and then the 11, which is equivalent to the 4. So I'm not thinking about octaves. I'm just thinking about this as a circle. We're going around in a circle. Therefore, for my purposes, I'm going to say that the 5-note away perfect fourth is equivalent to the 11th, right? It's going to be a 5-note away 11th. So we're going to say it either way here. All right. So I'm on this D, and we're going to go up. Now, if I go up to the string above it, we have to look for the inverse distance. So we're going to look for the inverse distance. So if this is going to be a 5-note away perfect fourth, 12 minus 5 is 7. So I need to look for the inverse distance. So it's going to be -5, -6, -7. So that means if I was to play it this way, from this G to that D, from top to bottom, that would be a 7-note away, which we know would be a perfect fifth. These two are inverses of each other, perfect fifths and perfect fourths. And therefore, if I go from the bottom to the top, measuring from the perspective of the D, it's going to be a 5-note away perfect fourth. So that means that if I go up one string, the 5-note away perfect fourth will be 2 frets back all the time, always. If whatever I'm measuring from, if I go up one string, then the 5-note away perfect fourth or 5-note away 11th will be 2 frets backwards towards the tail of the guitar, the tail I get. And then, unless you go over the fault line, but that's going to be the exception. The fault line again is of course between these 2 strings. All right, and then if I'm on the same string, so I'm looking for 5 notes away, so that's going to be here. So that's going to be about my full reach if I'm on the same string. So 5 notes away is going to be up to the 10. So I can kind of get a feel for that because that's my full stretch, like tectonically, like feeling it. I can say, okay, the 5-note away is about as much of a normal person can possibly reach while still holding down both of these notes at the same time. All right, and so then we're going to go down one string. So if I go down one string, where's the 5-note away perfect fourth, 5-note away perfect fourth, or 5-note away 11th? It's going to be right underneath because we know that the distance between the 2 strings is 5 notes. So it's just going to be 5 down. So if I'm up here, I just go down 1. That's 5-note distance. Therefore, that's going to be a 5-note away perfect fourth. So if I go down one string, the 5-note away perfect fourth is located right underneath it, which now I'm starting to think in my mind what the inverse is. It's like, that means that if I was to do the inverse, right, then that would be the 7-note away perfect, the 7-note away perfect fifth would be going from G up to D, right? So I can start seeing these two are pretty easy to start seeing that they're related to each other because the fact that they made something a perfect fourth meant that the inverse also had to be perfect, right? Because if that interval is perfect, you would think that the inverse has to basically, be perfect. So in any case, then we're going to go down another string. So we're going to say, all right, where's going to be the G over here? We have one up back this way and up top this way. The lesser distance is back. So let's count that out. So I'm looking for the 5-note away perfect fourth. If I go down one, it's going to be 5, 10, and then backwards is going to go down. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. So that's going to be an open. So I don't have to finger it because it's an open, but if I was to finger it, then I could still reach it because it's 5 frets back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's about as far as I could reach. Therefore, if I go down 2 strings, the 5-note away perfect fourth or 5-note away 11th is 5 frets back, unless I cross the fault line, which is a tectonic shift to the right, which means it would move it up, right? If I cross the fault line, it would be 4 frets back. All right, and then so let's go to the next one down. We'll go down 1, 2, 3 strings and look for the G. There it is. So if I count that up, we would say, all right, if I go down 3 strings and now across the fault line, which I have to define because if I go down 3 strings, I won't always cross the fault line because I wouldn't if I was up here. So it would be 5, 10, and then I cross the fault line this way, 15, and then I could bring that 15 down to 15 minus 12 because there's only 12 notes to 3, and then 4, 5. Let's count it this way. I should be counting it over here. So it'd be 5, 10, and then up to here, 15, and then I can bring that down to 3 because it's 15 minus 12 is 3, 4, 5. So boom, boom. So that means that if I go down 3 strings and cross the fault line, which I have to say now because that's going to be the exception, which we did cross the fault line, then the 5 note away perfect fourth or 5 note away 11th will be 3 frets up. What if I didn't cross the fault line? Well, that means that I would be up on the top string going down 3 strings, and this fault line is shifting up this way. So you would think it would be tighter or back 1 to get to it, right? So it'd be only 2 frets away instead of 3 frets away if you weren't going across the fault line. All right, so then we're going to go, let's go to the next one down. So now we're down here. Now notice that down here, because these 2 strings are the same, we might first say maybe it would be easier for me to look at the string up top, which means I would have to go to the inverse. So we said it was a 5 note away perfect fourth. To go up top, I'd have to say the inverse distance would be 12 minus 5 or 7, where we said this would be -5, 6, 7. So if I did it that way, I can say, well, bottom to top would be a 5 note away perfect fourth or 5 note away 11th, and then therefore this one, whoops, would be the same. Or we can count it down this way, and so we can say this is going to be 5, 10, and then crossing the fault line 15, bringing it down 15 minus 12 to 3, and then I go from 3 straight down because I already crossed the fault line. I don't go diagonally again. 3 plus 5 is 8, 7, 6, 5. So there's the 5 note away perfect fourth or 11. All right, so let's go to the next one and say now let's go to the 7 note away perfect fifth. And these, of course, are inverses of each other. Noting when I look up here in terms of chord construction, the fifth is within my triad because it's an odd one in the scale. So that one is right here, and therefore it's probably one that we have a better feel for. We've probably seen that a lot more just naturally when we're playing, normal chords and whatnot. So now we could just more formally just get it under our fingertips and be able to recognize it more clearly. So now we can say, all right, the 7 note away. Now, if I think about it on the same string, let's do that first this time. I could go up 7 notes and it would be up here. But if 7 notes is past the distance that I can typically reach, which is 5, right? And 6 would be half. So if it's 7 notes up, it would be easier for me to go backwards looking for the inverse distance. So I'm going to say, okay, it's 7 notes up. That's going to be a long reach because I can only reach like 5 frets on my fingers. So maybe 12 minus 7 is 5. That means the inverse distance going this way would be 5. So if I went from this open A to this D, that would be measuring from this A, that would be a 5 note away perfect fourth, and therefore we're going from the D to the A would be the 7 note away perfect fifth, because if we think of it as a circle, if we go around the circle one way and it's 5 notes, the other side would be 7 notes. So if I measure from D to A, we're going around 7, right? That's going to be right. So 7. So that's one. That's on the same string. Now let's go up 1 string. So if I go up a string, I'm looking now. If I go up a string and I'm looking for the 7 note away perfect fifth, it's 7 notes away. Remembering that this fifth means that it's the 5th note in the scale. That's basically what the perfect fifth means. But we should but we're supposed to just know that it's 7 notes away, that it's a perfect fifth, which again, you can see on a piano if it was linear. Therefore, that's probably why they dropped having to say it's a 7 note away perfect fifth. But on a guitar, we can't see that. Therefore, I'm going to iterate that it's a 7 note distance in half steps perfect fifth. So that means, but if I go up a note, I have to look for the inverse distance. So 12 minus 7 is 5. So if I go up 1 note, it's going to be right there, which is 5 notes away because there's a 5 note distance between the strings. So therefore, if I went from top to bottom, we might recognize that shape as a 5 note away perfect fourth, and therefore the inverse going from D up to A is going to be a 7 note away perfect fifth. So notice how useful that, I just want to reiterate how useful that is, because normally we can only count, we see things going from the low string down, which means that limits our flexibility to see from the perspective of like the root being on a string lower towards the floor than one up on a string towards the ceiling, right? So that's going to be, so it's useful for us to be able to see the inverses. All right, so now let's go to the one below it. So if I go to the string below it, I can see it right here. This is the most common one that we're probably familiar with because that's our power chord. So if I go down 1 string, now I can count normally. It's a 7 note away perfect fifth. It would be 5 to go down here, 6, 7. So boom, if I count it this way, now I'm on this string, it'd be 5, 6, 7. There's my 5, there's my, so anytime I see that shape, whenever I go down 1 string, the 7 note away perfect fifth is 2 frets forward. 2 frets forward is what I'm going to call that direction. And that's going to be basically our power chord, right? Which if I mute the string above it, mute everything below it. And that's a useful one because, of course, it doesn't have a third in it. And therefore, it's kind of ambiguous as to whether it's a major or minor. So if we're jamming through the reason that's kind of nice is because if I'm jamming through all the notes in my musical alphabet, I might know those, but I might not know, where the third is. I might not want to even switch between the majors and minors. I just want to go through the notes. I can always grab the fifth, and that's going to be cool, whether it's a major or a minor. It's not going to be out of key. So that's kind of nice to know. All right, so then if I go down another string, we're going to go down to here. So I go down 2 strings. So I'm looking for the 7 note away perfect fifth. So it'd be 5, 10, and then 9, 8, 7. So boom, let's count it over here. So down from here, 5, 10, 9, 8, 7. So bam, there's the A. Whoops, I'm missing it. That's right. What's wrong with you, man? All right, so now that's possibly not as well known, but it should be one that we want to know because like this gives us our normal, if you pick up that third right there, which is a minor third, then you get that, you get the shape that makes the most sense actually, like theory-wise, because it's in the right order, right? You got the 1, 3, 5 leaning back this way. So it's not always the easiest shape to grab, but it's a useful shape to know, and it's not too hard to grab just this back this way, right? And then you just add that there. So I actually like to visualize that fifth can be quite useful in practice. So, okay. So then we're going to say, let's go down another one and go down. Now we're crossing the fault line. We're looking for the 7 note away perfect fifth. So I see one up here. So now if I count that out, it's going to be 5, 10, and then 15. I could bring it down to 3. 15 minus 12 is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's on the 10th fret. Let's count it out this way. Wait, did I count that out? Yeah, I did. So it's going to be here, 5, 10, and then I have to shift up because of the fault line to 15 on this one. And then that's going to be 15 minus 12 is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there's my A right there. So that's a bit of a reach. But that helps me to know that if I go down 3 strings and cross the fault line, because I won't always cross the fault line if I go down 3 strings, because if I was on the top one, I wouldn't. If I go down 3 strings and cross the fault line, then the 7 note away perfect fifth is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frets forward. What if I didn't cross the fault line? That means I would start from the top string, for example. Well, then this fault line is shifted. It shifted, the tectonic plate shifted to the right. If this was shifted back to the left, then it would only be 1, 2, 3, 4 frets forward. So if I go down 1, 2, 3 strings, the 7 note away perfect fifth would normally be 4 frets forward, but when I cross the fault line, it would be 5 frets forward, right? So that fault line always is what's going to kind of throw us off on our shapes. We're going to memorize all the shapes, and then you've got this issue with the fault line that makes you have to rememorize, like, not all the shapes, but a lot of them, right? Because if you go 4 strings down, it'll always cross the fault line, right? And so you don't have to like do all the shapes, but a lot of them. So that's how it is, you know. And then we're going to go to the next one down. So once again, this one's on the bottom string. I might go up first, and I might say, okay, well, if I want to find the 7 note away perfect fifth down there, maybe I go to the one up top because it's faster. But to go to the one above it, I have to look at the inverse. So if it's a 7 note away perfect fifth, I got to look for 12 minus 7, which is 5, which is right above it. So that would be, if I went from bottom to top, that would be a 7 note away perfect fifth right above it. And therefore, if the bottom string right there would be the 7 note away perfect fifth, or I can count it down if I want to do it that. If you want to do it the long way, go ahead. Like, who's going to stop you if you want to do it the long way? I do want to do it the long way. Okay, get off my back. So it'd be 5, 10, and then we go up here to 15, and 15 minus 12 would be 3, and 3 plus 5 would be 8, and then back down to 7. So that would be a 7 note away perfect fifth, which would be possibly part of our bar chords if we were to play like a D minor bar chord. We can bar off that A at the bottom. You don't really need it if you don't catch it, because you already have a perfect fifth here. That'd be an A minor. I mean, that would be an A minor shaped D minor chord. All right, but that's not what we're focusing in on here. Get back into so now we're going to go to the next one. So now we have a 9 note away major 6. Now that 9 note away major 6 is the same interval we saw on the major scales, but it's weird to see it on a minor mode, which the Dorian is, because this is the funny one. So the Dorian, all of the intervals will be the same as the main minor, the minor scale, which is the Aeolian mode, except that you're going to have a major 6. So this is the differentiating factor. So if you wanted to convert your Dorian and say, I don't want to play Dorian, I want to go full minor, then you could just look at that minor 6th and flatten it to make it, the major 6, the 9 note away major 6, flatten it to an 8 note away minor 6, and then you would shift your shape to being that of a D minor instead of a D Dorian. All right, makes perfect sense. So, and by the way, that also leads to the concept of, could I move from one mode to the other, right? You would think that you could go from like the C major to the D Dorian because they're all the same notes by just focusing on the D and then all the same notes, and then maybe go from like the D Dorian to the D minor, because that's a pretty small shift, right? You just, all of a sudden, you just kind of subtly stop playing the major 6 and drop it down to the minor 6th, right? And then you can and then maybe you could switch back. If you're in D minor, could I get to D Dorian? Well, maybe you'd think maybe you could just kind of subtly throw in the major 6th instead of the minor 6th, and then you'd be in the D Dorian, which means you'd be in all of the related modes to Dorian, such as the A minor, that you can then switch to by then making that right. You could start to think about how you might be able to subtly go through these modes without making a jarring switch, right? That's kind of interesting to think about. It's probably beyond my my pay grade as an accountant over here, but anyway. So we're on the next one. So this is a 9-note away. So 9 notes, if I'm on the same string, it's pretty far up there. So once again, I'm going to say, well, that's too far to reach going forward. Let's look at the inverse. 12 minus 9 would be 3. And so I can go 3 back, boom, 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 to that B. 3 back to the B, baby. So we're going to say, if I went like this, from B to D, that would be a 3-note away minor third. And the inverse from D to B, therefore, is a 9-note away major 6. Now, by the way, the 9 isn't even, so that means that it's not going to be part of our normal. We got the 1, 3, 5, then 7, and then that 9 isn't the same as this 9. It's the 13, because this 9, when I make a chord, represents the 2. The 11 is the skipped 4, and the 13 is the skipped 6. So that's what it's going to be. So we're on the 9-note away major 6, or 9-note away, you could say major 13, basically. Okay, and so that's going to be the idea. Now, if I go up a string, so now I could see it right there. So if I'm going to say, all right, I'm looking, so again, the 9-note away is possibly one that's not in our mind as much because it's not part of our normal chord construction. So it's possibly one that we got to think about a little bit more to get it down. It does add a good color adding note, so it'd be cool to know it. So if I go up, I'm going to say I have to look for the inverse distance because I'm going up a string. So it's 9. If I'm looking for a 9-note away major 6, is 12 minus 9 is 3. So I'm looking for a distance of 3. So I'm going to call this -5 between here and then 4, 3. So it's going to be that B right here. So if I went from top to bottom, that would be measuring from the B, would be a 3-note away, which would be a minor third if you want to name it with that convention. And then if I go from bottom to top, therefore measuring from the D, it would be the inverse of a 9-note away major 6. So it's useful to know that because we know pretty well what obviously a 3-note away minor third is really important when you're in a minor scale at least, right? So we probably know that one pretty well. It's useful to be able to say, okay, well, that means just the inverse is a 9-note away major 6. So we kind of know at least if we can just memorize the inverse. Okay, so then we go to the one below it, and we're looking for the B. So boom, there's the B. So if I count that out, it's going to be 5 right here, and then 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's count it out this way. If I'm on that D, it's going to be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Boom. So there it is, D to B. So that means if I go down one string, the 9-note away major 6 will always be 1, 2, 3, 4 frets forward unless we cross the fault line, and the fault line is down here. This tectonic plate shifts to the right. So if we've crossed the fault line, it would be, if I go down one string, 5 frets forward, right? It would make it a little bit more difficult. All right, let's go down another string. We're going to say, let's go down 3 strings. So I'm looking for the 9-note away major 6, which is right there. So I'm going to say it's going to be 3 strings would be 5, 10, and then back one would be the 9. So if I count it on this guitar, 5, 10, and then back one would be the 9. So there's my shape. Now this one, you might know like the 10-note away minor 7, because that's so popular. I mean, that's like if you do bluesy stuff, that's like going to be in all the minors as well as the mixolydian, which is kind of the major mode for the minor where you drop, right? So then you just go back one. So if that's 10-note away minor 7, then back one, it's got to be a 9-note away major 6. So therefore, if I go down 2 strings, the distance of a 9-note away major 6 will always be 1 fret back unless I cross the fault line. If I cross the fault line, this tectonic shifting to the right, that means that it's going to be on the same fret, and it'll look like a 10-note away minor 7. That's why it gets all messy when we cross that fault line. But we could still memorize it. Don't let it like not. So you just have to get a little bit more complex to kind of systematically get it in our head. So we're not going to give up on it just because the earthquake happened. We rebuild, dang it. We rebuild. All right, and okay, let's go back. I got a little emotional there. Let's go to the next one down. We're gonna say this one's gonna be 5, 10, and then we're gonna go this way across the fault line, 15. 15 minus 12 is 3. Well, I can go, let's keep it at 15. 15, and then 14, and then 13, and then 12, then 11, 10, 9. Now, we could have brought it back down to 3. What would that do? 5, 10, 15. 15 minus 12 is 3. 3, 2, 1, 0, or 12, because we go around in a circle. 12, 11, 10, 9. So let's count it out on the guitar. We're going to say, all right, that's going to be 5, 10, and then 15 up here. 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. So that would be all the way back here, which would be on the net. So that means that if I go down 1, 2, 3 strings, then the 9-note away major 6, if I go down 3 strings and cross the fault line, the 9-note away major 6 will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frets back. What if I didn't cross the fault line? This fault line is pushing up to the right. So if I didn't cross the fault line, it would be a fret back, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which would make it just out of reach, meaning it would be the same distance going back versus forwards, because 6 would be right in the middle of our reach. So it would be just out of reach on both sides, right, of our finger. All right, so let's go down 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if I go down 4 strings, it's always going to cross the fault line, because either I'm on the top string and I go down to here, or I'm on the bottom or the second one and I go down to here. Either way, it's going to cross the fault line. So if I go down 4 strings, that's the exception to the rule, where I don't have any exception to the rule, right? Where it's always going to be the same, because you're always going to cross the fault line. So we're going to say that's going to be here. So let's count it out. It's going to be 5, 10, and then shift up here to 15. 15 minus 12 is 3, plus another 5 is 8, and then 9. Let's count it out this way. We're on this one. We got 5, 10, and then shifting up here to 15. Down 15 minus 12 is 3, plus 5. Wait a second. Que paso there. Let's try it again. Otra vez. Another time. This is going to be 5, 10, and then 15. 15 minus 12 is 3. 3 plus 5 is 8, and then 9. So boom. And you're probably saying, why didn't you do your trick going up the other way? You could have done that. I could have said 9. Well, if I go up 1, it's going to be the inverse. 12 minus 9 is 3. So it'd be negative 5, 4, 3. And therefore, if that's a 9-note away major 6 measuring from D to B, then it's got to be the same on the same fret down here. So I could have done that as well. And now I did do that. So I could have done it, and I did it. I could have swore, and I feel like I missed an opportunity. I had this perfect opportunity, and I could have swore, and I passed it up, and I regret it because I had a good swearing opportunity. I'm going to go up top. Now we'll do the 10-note away minor 7. Let's do it on the same string first. Once again, if I'm on the same string, 10-note away minor 7 is going to be the same. Now, notice it's an odd one, and therefore when I count it up in our normal making a chord, it's still there, but we usually have the 1, 3, 5 is our most common, and then the 7 is another added one. So it's still in the scale is what I'm trying to say, and it's still the 7th. But it's not one that we have in the normal triad. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. So it's a minor 7, so that means that it's going to be the same in the Dorian as in the main minor. It's a minor 7, It's in the C major, we had the major 7, of course, which is an 11 note away major 7. Now we have a 10 note away minor 7. So 10 notes away is too far going this way to reach typically, so I'm going to look for the inverse, which is 12 minus 10, or 2. Therefore, if I go back 2 notes, that's doable. So if I went from this C to that D, that would be a 2 note away, which we call a major second. And therefore, if I went from the D back to the C, that would be a 10 note away minor 7 then, because we're thinking of it as a circle. If I go one way around the circle, 2 steps, 2 notes the other way, and the 12-step circle must therefore be 10 steps. So then if I go up 1, I'm going to say, all right, let's go up a string. If I'm looking for the 10 note away minor 7 to the string above it, I have to look for the inverse distance, which is 12 minus 10, or 2. So I'm going to call that negative 5, 4, 3, 2. Therefore, let's count it over here too, negative 5, 4, 3, 2. So if I went from this C down to the D, that would be a 2 note away major second. If I go from the D up to the C, therefore, that would be a 10 note away minor second, 7. So remember that the inverse is whenever you have like a minor and you look at the inverse, it's going to be a major. Whenever you have a major and you look at the inverse, it's going to be a minor typically, right? So that means, so the inverse of a 2 note away major second is a 10 note away minor 7. The inverse of a 10 note away minor 7 is a 2 note away major second. All right, so then if I go to if I go up 1 string, then the 10 note away minor 7 will always be 1, 2, 3 frets up unless I'm crossing the fault line, which means if I was on like this string and I was going up, then it would cross the fault line. All right, so let's go down 1 now, and we're looking for the 10 note away minor 7. So if I go down 1, we have it there, so it's going to be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So let's count it up over here, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and that's about as far as I can reach, which is kind of useful to know. So it's going to be, so did I count it here? It's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Boom. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frets up, which is about as far as I can reach typically while holding down both notes. And so that's useful to know. And so that is that one. All right, let's go down 2 strings. This is possibly the most common one. Maybe this one's pretty common too, but it's a little bit reachy. This one's a little bit easier to pick up. So now you've got 5, 10. 5, 10. That's nice and easy to count out. So if I count it over here, 5, 10, boom. So you get that nice bluesy kind of soundy. Whether it be a minor blues or a major blues, it don't matter, because that's the minor 7, and it's in the minor blues and the major blues, because the major blues often you can kind of think of it as like mixolydian, and the mixolydian has all the same intervals as the major, except that major 7 becomes the minor 7. So that's a pretty cool note to know, man. All right, let's move on. Let's go to the next one down. So that's going to be, so that, by the way, that means that if I go down two strings, the 10 note away minor 7 will always be on the same fret unless we're crossing the fault line, in which case the fault moves to the right, therefore it'll be shifted up. It'll be 1 fret forward if I cross the fault line. All right, let's go down to this one. This is going to be, if I go down 3 strings and cross the fault line, 5, 10, 15 up here, I can bring that down to, well, let's just do it this way, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, or 5, 10, 15, 15 minus 12 is 3, 3, 2, 1, 0, or 12, there's the octave, 12, 10, 12, 11, 10. All right, let's count it on here. So 5, 10, 15. So if I'm here, 5, 10, 15 up this way, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11. I did something wrong. 5, 10, 15, and then 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10. I think I had that right the first time. So there we have it. And I have that buzzy sound because I probably need to adjust my guitar. It's bugging me, but that's okay. I'm not going to let it bother me. I need to fix that. No, it's okay. So we're going to say, so that means that if I go down 1, 2, 3 strings and across the fault line, then the 10 note away minor 7 is 1 through 3, 4 frets back. 1, 2, 3, 4 frets back. What if I didn't cross the fault line? Well, this fault line pushed it forward. Therefore, it would be back another one, which would be quite far to reach. It would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frets back, which would be difficult here because I'm the long end of the guitar. All right, let's do one more. I'm getting tired here. Let's go to the next one. Here's the C. Now, again, we could do the inverse thing and say, well, that's kind of far. Can I find the one on the top string and then match it? Let's do that. How did we do that again? Well, it's a 10 note away minor 7. If I'm going to the string above it, I got to look for the inverse distance, which is 2 notes away. So I can go 5, -5, 4, 3, 2. Boom. So that's C, and therefore it's the same down here. Or I can count it out that way and say we've got 5, 10, 15 going this way. I could bring it 15 minus 12 is 3, plus another 5 is 8, 9, 10. Boom. There it is. Dorian.